So in my last post, I was discussing Barry Schwartz's assertion that having too many choices makes people less happy. And I should have mentioned that Barry Schwartz is a pretty good source of information about this topic, since as a professor at Swarthmore, he does research on choice. And in fact, just the other day, I stumbled across the abstract of a journal article that he and his colleagues had written about how people who try to make the best possible choice are actually less happy than people who make choices that are merely good enough. And this reminded me of something that I've been struggling with lately, which is what I'd like to talk to you about today. So since I am at this point in my life where I'm finishing up my doctoral studies, I have had to start considering what I'm going to do with myself next. And thanks in part to all my years of formal education, as well as other opportunities that I've had in the past, there are a fair number of things I could do now, many of which I'd be very happy with, very satisfied. So I'm fortunate enough to have employment opportunities sort of fall into my lap on a fairly regular basis, and I'm constantly coming up with ideas for projects that I'd be interested in pursuing, some of which would earn money, and some of which would not. And although on one hand it's very exciting to think about all these possibilities, it's also rather stressful because, I want to make sure that I don't make the wrong choice. So, some of the ideas that I've been sort of toying around with, should I try to get a college teaching position? Should I get a public school job? Should I work with urban youth in some context or another? Should I keep doing exactly what I am doing and just, take on more students and try to make a name for myself? Should I become a writer and get to work on this very long list of book ideas that I've been accumulating for several years? Or should I do something entirely different, entirely new, and just take off in a different direction? And so, these have been going on around and around in my mind. But what I just recently realized was that, instead of actually pursuing any of these options, I was just stuck in a state of keeping my options open. So I was half-heartedly pursuing many options just to make sure, or opportunities, to make sure that they didn't disappear. But instead of just doing one thing and doing it well. And as a result, I was feeling, spread too thin and overwhelmed and really just dissatisfied with the quality of my work. So what turned things around for me actually was the shower valve experience that I told you maybe a little bit about in my last post. That and remembering what I knew about Barry Schwartz's work on the paradox of choice. I realized that I just had to bite the bullet and make a decision and stick with it, whatever it was, which of course, whenever you do commit to an idea and go for it, that does mean foregoing other opportunities. And around the same time, I read this article in the New York Times by David Brooks entitled The Age of Possibility, in which he suggests that, many people are dealing with this same kind of issue these days because lots of people have lots and lots of options, and no one wants to give up any of them. So although I didn't entirely agree with everything that David Brooks said, I did appreciate his reminder that it's just not a good idea to, as he said, go through adulthood perpetually trying to keep your options open, which is essentially what I was doing. So, that's just not a recipe for a happy life, because you have to commit to something and you have to just go for it, even if that does mean giving up other things. So you might be wondering what I have decided to do with myself in the end, that is, after I finish my dissertation. And it is sort of a secret at this point, so I'm not exactly going to tell you, but I will tell you that this blog is part of the overall plan. My goal is to do something with my life that is both very interesting and exciting for me personally, but also something that, in my own small way, I can contribute to making the world a better place. So when the time is right, I will tell you more about what exactly that means. But until then, thank you for watching this and happy learning.